The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, finishing off our player-by-player profiles for the 2020 fantasy football season today. The tight end position. In the comment section, after you smash the like button, please tell me who the biggest bust at the top end of tight ends is going to be, in your opinion. That's up to you. Also, rate and review the Pat Mayo Experience 5 stars for the audio version, especially if you are outside of the United States. I mean, if you're in the United States, please rate the show 5 stars. You don't even need to leave the review. Just scroll down, hit the 5-star button, boom, we're good to go. But if you live in, like, I don't know, Japan and you're listening, that goes along. The reach goes a long way because people aren't leaving a whole lot of reviews on fantasy football podcasts over there. So please help out the show. Also, if you hit the description of this video or podcast, you will find the entire spectrum of the Pat Mayo Experience Fantasy Football 2020 draft kit, including all the running backs, all the quarterbacks, all the wide receivers, plus my top 200 rankings, which are already out. Chris Meaney has been on all of these.
Yes.
He is in studio with me. He is from fadethenoise.com. And for not even just football, but any sport you want at fadethenoise.com, use promo code Mayo. There's already like discounts going around at Fade the Noise. If you just type in Mayo, you get extra money off.
Extra money is good. That's what you want. Yeah, I mean, and there's lots of sports, as you're well aware.
At FTNFantasy.com, FTN Daily, FTN Bets, there's a bunch of it.
Data. Yeah, and there's lots of, I mean, it's obviously we're sitting here talking football and, leading the way, Ratcliffe and Brad Evans. Pretty too.
They're on the top 200 show if people want to check that one out.
I listened. It was great. But not just the football, baseball, basketball, tennis, MMA, esports. We're really covering all the bases there. A lot of cool tools, a lot of neat things happening.
Yeah, so promo code Mayo and follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Meaney. Of course, let's talk these tight ends. Kelce, first tight end coming off the board. Not a big shocker with that. Average draft position per NFC right now in these high stakes leagues. I've taken these ones from the middle of June to now. So it's pretty recent.
Yep.
Pick 21. So mid to end of the second round, early third round is the general spot where Kelce's going. I love that spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, what can we even say about Kelce? I remember talking to you last year, roughly this time, we were just debating, like, if you have pick 12, do you just take him? And I think
I did that last year. I took him in the first round or at the swing pick. You'd be shocked how many teams I started with Kelce and Michael Thomas. Those teams did pretty well. But at the time, people were like, well, you don't have a running back. What are you doing? It's like, well, I have these two guys who are potentially number one. Kelce has been the number one tight end for 4 straight years.
Yeah.
Like,
It's hard to argue him not being again. I mean, I wouldn't mind Kittle if it's a few picks later. If I'm picking, I don't know.
And it is a few. If we
just a couple.
If we mesh these guys into each other, basically.
See the range though of outcomes, like 7. People are more willing probably to grab Kittle. Maybe that has something to do with the Deebo Samuel injury. Potentially, it does. I'd say. I mean, he missed 2 games last year. He didn't come too far off from Kelce's numbers, really. He clearly is the go-to guy in San Fran. What is a run-heavy offense? But he is the guy. And you could make a case for, I suppose, Tyreek Hill being the guy. There's a lot of options in KC.
It just doesn't. There's a consistency factor every single week to Travis Kelce. Like, and people complain through like the first 5 games last year. Like, Kelce sucks. Kelce sucks. Like, he's scoring 13 points a week and he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Wait till he does something.
Right. He wasn't finding the end zone, but from a target catch per game, yards per game, he was number 1 in all those categories that you want. He just wasn't finding the end zone at the early part of the season. And that, he started to find the end zone at the end and through the playoffs, obviously.
The big thing about these two guys and what separates them from the rest of the tight end pack is that consistency factor where, generally speaking, some guys will go on little mini runs where they'll go 6 for 80 and score a touchdown, or just 6 for 75 the next week, and they're having good weeks. Yeah. Just these guys do it every week, and tight end relies so much when you look at the rankings at the end of every single year of who scored the most fantasy points. It's so touchdown driven.
100%.
And then you see all these guys who get 3 targets a week and they end up scoring 9 touchdowns or something. Yeah. But you never want to play them because they could be 0.
Yeah. So, one of those touchdowns is going to come.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really difficult to predict. At least with these guys, you have the floor with Kittle and Kelce. So I guess the big question is, a lot of people are taking Mahomes or Lamar in this sort of range when you could be taking Kelce or Kittle. I'd rather have the tight end. Like,
Me too.
Barring injury, I don't want to say I guarantee you, but I'll guarantee you.
Do it.
Kelce and Kittle are coming top 5 at their position. Probably top 3. They're probably going to be 1-2 at tight end by the end of the year, as long as they don't get hurt.
As long as they play 14 games.
With Lamar and Mahomes, yeah, they're going to be good. But if Lamar doesn't, let's say Lamar regresses 20% of his numbers, which isn't unrealistic based on the season that he had a year ago, that he's back in the range with like all of the other quarterbacks. He could be 1 and only score 1.5 a game more than like the guy who's 8th. The difference between these guys and everyone else is huge.
It's significant because as we get down through some of the next few guys, I expect a little bit of regression from a couple of them. I don't expect any regression from Kelce or Kittle. Like I said, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Kittle had a better fantasy season than Kelce, but I agree with you 100%. I would much rather have the tight end than, because it is a big drop. I mean, if you're at the 11 or 12 spot in your draft, you pair him up with one of these tight ends with a back, I think you're ahead of the curve. I mean, we've already talked with the wide receiver positions. There's just so much value there and just so deep. And I will say this. It's not exciting usually to talk about tight ends once you get past the first few. It's like, okay, just wait it out and grab someone near the end. This is actually a pretty interesting, tight end year where there's some guys that have some upside. But again, you're not going to have that consistency where Kittle and Kelce are going to average about 8 targets per game. You're not going to see that with like Hockenson or Noah Fant.
No, and last 4 years, Kelce has the 5th most receptions in the league, and if you took his fantasy points and translated him over to receiver, he'd be the number 6 receiver.
Yeah.
So like you have to think of him that way, and then give him a boost because of the position.
Because of the position.
Like he just outscores everyone except for Kittle by so much.
This is exactly what I remember talking to you about last year. Is when you get to that point, do you want him or Julio Jones? And it's like, okay, Julio is like 1,000 every year. You can get up to 1,400. We've seen it, but the drop off, it's significant. So I'm with you. I mean, I think Kelce and Kittle should both be gone before mid-second. They should be off the board.
And they're lasting sometimes in the very early. If you want them, you're going to have to take them in round 2.
You're
like if you wait for them and they fall to you in round 3, you probably have a pretty good team on your hands.
Yeah.
Kittle, the last 2 years, has led the league in yards after reception.
Yeah.
Like and with Debo out for, let's say, 3-4 weeks, the broken foot. Everyone's drafting Ayuk. We talked about this. Those are going to go to Kittle.
Right. Yeah, it's Kittle's offense. The entire offense is going to run through him. They're still going to want to run the football there, but he is the red zone threat. He's everything. He's Garoppolo's number 1 target.
So the case against these guys is more of an outlier situation because a lot of people last year, there was 2 really popular sleepers. One was Mark Andrews, one was Darren Waller. That if you waited to like the last round and drafted those guys,
you're on your way.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Like you didn't need Kittle or Kelce because you had so much value on these guys who ended up becoming top 5 options. That doesn't normally happen.
No.
And now they come at a premium.
Exactly. Yeah. And we hit on them last year. And I don't think that there's anyone in that range who could, potentially lead their team in targets and catches, which we saw with Waller and Andrews. We saw that.
Andrews is probably the only one right now. So Mark Andrews is going as tight end number 3, pick number 48. That's end around 4. Like, do you feel good about? Like, I like Mark Andrews a lot, but it's a lot of draft capital for a guy who did it once.
Yeah, I do. I still think the offense is going to run through him. I mean, Hayden Hurst, not that he did a whole lot, but
he's gone.
He's gone. So that was the one thing that we kind of joked about, that Baltimore just had a dozen tight ends and which one's it going to be. And I think Mark Andrews is just like with Kittle. He's the number 1 option really for Lamar Jackson. He's the red zone threat. He's going to be a big part of that offense through the air. They want to run the football, but I'm fine with this price. After this, to me, it's like after those first 3, like there's that tier with those 2. Andrews, I think, is by himself. And then after that, it's like, well, you might as well just wait on value and try to find some upside.
I guess it depends. Like Andrews last year had 7 games of 50 yards and a score 7 times. Like no one had done that since GRONK, which is kind of nuts. But let's say we see it every single year. These players, whoever it might be, just have a outlier touchdown year, either up or down. Let's say he only scores 3 touchdowns this year. It seems inconceivable right now, but it's not like the craziest thing in the world. That if he's not a guy who is scoring a bunch of touchdowns, there's no way he pays off that price.
And if he doesn't, then Lamar may struggle through the air. I mean, you said it off the
Hollywood
top.
breaks out,
or Hollywood breaks out, or Jake's boy Boykin. You know,
Let's calm down on Boykin Jake.
But to be honest, I mean, another guy that I feel like at least will have that volume, the targets. It's possible that maybe he only scores 5 touchdowns, but again, he's going to be a target in the red zone, and he's going to be right there with Kittle in terms of targets per game. I mean, I think this is a fair price. I really do. I think it's a good spot, and you want a piece of that Baltimore offense. I mean, the backfield is a little crowded, and there's some question marks with some other wide receivers. I mean, I think he's the go-to guy.
So that's pick number 48, going as early as number 31, as late as 65. Zach Ertz is next. He's ADP number 55 overall right now. He's sort of the anti-Mark Andrews, where it's 8 for 66 for Zach Ertz. Hopefully he can find the end zone. But at the end of the year, he started finding the end zone.
He did. In his first 3 years of his career, he never found the end zone. That was the problem. It's like, eventually, he'll find the end zone and he'll be a target for Carson Wentz. He's actually a fade for me as much as I like Zach Ertz and how consistent he normally is. Yeah, there's a lot going on there in Philadelphia. And I know there's some question marks with Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey.
Is Deshaun Jackson even going to be on this team? Because I have a feeling that he's not.
I'm surprised we haven't, heard anything yet. I mean, Philly had a statement. They said they were going to clean it up in-house. They've been known to give guys benefit of the doubt before in the past. Riley Cooper, Michael Vick, they've let guys go before. I don't know if I think he's going to be there.
Okay,
I'll say that.
He was there. I mean, he wasn't really there last year.
No, he played a couple games. Yeah, and his 1 week was phenomenal. But there's just a lot going on there. You also have Dallas Goedert, who I thought towards the end of the season really took a step forward. When a lot of these wide receivers got hurt, like Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, and they were just rolling out, random scrubs, teams just really focused on Zach Ertz. And it was Dallas Goedert who was wide open.
He was, but Ertz still caught 88 passes last year, and he scored in 5 of the last 7 weeks. He got better as the year went along. He only had 1 touchdown catch in his first 8 games.
Yeah.
He had 5 in the final 7.
When Wentz was feeling it and had to go his way.
Greg Ward couldn't do everything.
I just feel like we could potentially be disappointed with Ertz. I just feel like 90 catches may be a bit of a stretch if Jalen Reagor is big part of the offense. They drafted 4 other wide receivers there too. So I just feel like he could let us down.
I feel like he's I know we all want Miles Sanders this year.
Yeah.
But he just feels like the same. Is Dallas Goedert even awake from getting sucker punched?
I hope so.
Poor guy, man.
Yeah, I know.
As someone who's been sucker punched a bunch of times, look how punchable my face is. It happens.
It's the same.
Just getting dropped. Not a whole lot of fun when you don't see it coming. It's not a whole lot of fun anyway.
Yeah.
When you don't see it coming, it's not great.
I just think we'll see another step forward from Goedert. I think he did some really good things in the last few games. He was also a red zone threat for Carson Wentz. So not that I'm saying draft Goedert and feel good about him being a tight end 1. I'll tell you what, if you have Goedert in your team and anything happens to Zach Ertz, you have yourself a top 5 tight end. We'll say that.
Sure.
No, that's easy it's tough to predict those kind of things, but you can just take away Ertz's numbers and Goedert would just get them.
Darren Waller is the 5th tight end off the board. He is ADP number 68 right now, as high as 53, as low as 81. This feels like a giant step backwards this year. He's no longer just the guy there anymore. That's the whole point. Waller, when we looked at it last year, was who is taking away targets from Darren Waller? He could be the main guy, and he was.
He was.
And he still didn't score a bunch of touchdowns because in the red zone, they love using Foster Moreau for whatever reason, the island of Foster Moreau. But now you go out and you draft Ruggs. You bring in Aguilar, which doesn't sound like much, but it's just another warm body
Lynn Bowden.
to throw out with Tyrell Williams. And Hunter Renfrow is going to be healthy the entire season.
He's also a red zone.
Yeah,
there's
a lot more options to suck away all that volume. Now, the price isn't bad at pick number 68, but this... who is you think it's Mark Andrews is the guy? It's you draft Kelce where he's going, Kittle where he's going, Andrews where he's going, or just wait.
Yeah, or just wait. Like I said, I'd pass on Ertz and I'd pass on Waller. It's going to be hard for him to duplicate what he did last year. You bring in all those weapons that you just mentioned, Lynn Bowden. This is a team that wants to run the football. They got Jason Witten there too. We can laugh about Jason Witten, but still, he's going to piss people off. There's no question about it, especially if you're a Waller owner. I mean,
you know who that sucks for? me. Because in my league, we have this one guy who like barely pays attention. He's just been in the league for 15 years. And he will most definitely have Jason Witten
there's always somebody
as his starting tight end, and he will score 0 for like 7 consecutive weeks. And then he'll play me, and Jason Witten will score 3 touchdowns.
There's always somebody. There was someone in my league last year that drafted Witten, and I laughed and I joked. It's like, what? Like, why? Why are we doing this? But listen, Gruden has said it numerous times. He's going to run 3 tight end sets. He's going to run the football, hammer the rock, and in the red zone, there's no. Well, we talked about wide receivers, Hunter Renfrow. I think maybe you and I were alone. He is one of Carr's favorite guys and go-to guys inside the red zone. We saw it last year. He's very, very efficient inside the red zone. So it's just Waller's numbers are just going to come down. It's just natural. His targets are going to come down. They got an elite number 1 wide receiver now in Ruggs. Tyrell Williams missed a ton. Okay, there's time to be said about that. Fine, but at least they have one. Tyrell Williams was their number 1 wide receiver last year. I think he scored a touchdown in the first 4 games, but then he missed all that time. So really, it was just Carr throwing the football to Waller. So it's just natural you're going to see some regression.
Yeah, it's just a volume regression from him. Like, he's not going to hit the heights that he did in terms of just through attrition every single week. It's like, oh, the Raiders suck. Like, they're not having a good game. Like, let me go check to see what Waller's doing. Oh, he has 7 catches for 55 yards already in the first half. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take that. That's fine.
For sure. Yeah. So
here's a fun one.
Yeah, I know.
Eleanor Higbee. Pick number 79. As high as 61. The love is starting to come back off of it a little bit.
A little bit,
because it got really high, and then it's coming back down. Because it should, because it's ridiculous. Like, what are you doing? You're drafting him over Evan Engram? Really? I get that Ingram's hurt every single year, but give your fucking head a shake.
There's people who really, really like him. I've seen rankings as tight end 4 off the board. I've seen people reach for him. That is a huge, huge mistake. You're asking for it if you were reaching on Tyler Higbee and just... His last few games were phenomenal. How sustainable is that? Come on. It's not.
Put it this way. If you think that he can replicate what he did the last 4 games, you should be
3.
drafting him as George Kittle.
Yeah, exactly. He's 3. Tight end 3
not
off the board.
You're not going to get that. I hate to tell you.
No, you're not. And there's just so many other factors there, too, like that played in. I mean, Gerald Everett was actually okay in the first few games of the season. He had a couple. I know he had one 100-yard game. He had multiple games where he had double-digit targets. And then because I remember, I rostered him. I had him on my team.
Cup got hurt.
And then, Cup left. Everett got hurt. Cooks, exactly.
Gurley wasn't thrown to out of the backfield for whatever reason. And they started playing all these 12 sets.
Exactly.
And I don't think that they're going to lean on that as much because you know what? They're not going to be as good.
I know.
They can't just throw out these big packages and try to run the ball as much as they want to do.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So he's a clear fade for me. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe this is a hot take, but I wouldn't be shocked if Everett had very similar numbers as Higbee at the end of the season.
The thing is, if Everett has similar numbers to Higbee, they're both unownable.
Right. 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. So he's a clear fade. Yeah, it was good what he did last year towards the end. I know they signed him to an extension. I don't care about any of that. I'm not paying for the 6 games that he was really, really good.
This is a situation where we could have a lot of egg on our face by the time that the end of the year comes along.
Possible.
And I'm willing to take that. But Tyler Higbee, out of all these guys, like in the top 10 or so, he strikes me as the guy that you might drop after 3 weeks.
He is the easiest clear-cut bust, not even just for tight ends, for anybody. I mean, look where he's going on. Someone was willing to take him pick 61? Pick 61?
You can get like DJ
in the
Chark
5th round? Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, you
Like,
can
I
get a
don't
wide
like-
receiver with 100 targets.
I don't like David Montgomery, but David Montgomery is going in the same range. Like, that's a starting running back.
Especially if you're going to, you start off with a tight end or a back or a couple wide receivers and you want to, the no RB strategy or whatever, 0 RB strategy. I mean, yeah, Montgomery's going to be a guy that...
Volume.
It's volume. He's going to touch the ball 300 times.
Yeah, it might even just be bad volume. But, I'd rather take that shit. It'd be like if David Johnson is going after this. Like, I hate David Johnson.
Same.
I still think I'd rather
Conner.
If this was Connor, I actually like.
Yeah, me too. There's some upside there.
If this was 50 picks later and it was like round 12, round 13 for Higbee, that is a very calculated gamble. You actually have to spend draft capital to get him. Like,
right. He has to be perfect for you. He not perfect, but he has to. In this range of return value for a 5th round pick, he better average 65 yards per game consistently. Like, he better get 5 catches and 60 yards per game. Like, forget the touchdowns. Like, I think only a handful of touchdowns, not even 5, I believe.
So he averaged 104 yards per game over the final 5, but he ran just 115 routes in the first 12 weeks. In those games, Everett ran 239.
Exactly.
And maybe there just is a shift. And I don't even want to.
not gonna
Yeah,
be
you know what?
huge.
I don't even want to about this. Don't draft Tyler Higbee. How about that? Thanks.
I'm with you. Stamped approval. Yeah, move on.
Evan Engram, pick number 88. A full 10 picks after Tyler Higbee. Yes, he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
I'm aware of this. I've had him on my team in the past.
Same.
However, this is a team that's probably going to be losing a lot.
Yep.
I like Daniel Jones.
Me too.
Against the NFC East, like with the way that the schedule looks right now, like it's a tougher schedule for the Giants the first few weeks, and then it really opens up for them. If they go to the air, I'd rather take a gamble on Evan Engram over Tyler Higbee.
He's at least shown us a little bit more. You know, obviously you're right. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he's put together.
Put it this way, I don't worry about we worry about Gerald Everett outscoring Tyler Higbee. I don't worry about Rhett Ellison,
No.
who I think may have retired. But
Yeah.
I don't worry about him.
You shouldn't. Ingram has been a stud since day one. You know, when he was a rookie, he was setting records, man, for tight ends. He was great. I know Odell Beckham Jr. missed some time, but he was reliable.
He is a wide receiver.
Exactly. He's a big body who has great hands. He can run nice, solid routes. And you're right, the schedule is pretty tough. I think it starts San Fran, Chicago, Pittsburgh in some sort of order like that.
But it's also
You're gonna
that
take
is
away
that-
those wideouts, and it's going to be.
And that's also really, if the season goes off without a hitch right now, it's teams in a bubble. You don't know who's going to be on those fucking teams by the time week 2 comes along. Like, I don't even know if the season's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. It's you're right, but yeah, Ingram is, and this is kind of the range where he went last year. Remember, there was like that 5 to 7 range he was mixed in there with OJ Howard.
It was, but like
Hunter Henry.
Right now he's pick 88. Last year that was like pick 56.
56.
Like
So
this,
you're
this
getting
is where where Ertz is going now is where Everett was going. Ingram was going
Ingram.
last year.
Yeah. And I think that, so you're getting another round maybe back, but he still has that same upside. Like that talent is not gone anywhere.
But even so, like I'd almost still rather wait towards the end to do this. Like, why am I going to spend pick number 88 when it depends on who's left there? Yeah, maybe Ingram is the best of those guys, but I could just wait till the 15th round and take a guy who's potentially the equivalent, or maybe I like better.
Well,
And then if they suck, I don't feel bad about dropping them.
Yeah.
That I feel like that is such an overlooked part about draft strategy that people just don't put themselves into. Like if you draft a player, because people always talk about, let's say, when Clyde Edwards-Helaire is bad after 3 weeks, then just trade for him because he's going to be great. Yeah, you think the guy who spent the 2nd round pick on Clyde Edwards-Helaire
chance.
is going to sell him for nothing? Yeah,
Stubborn.
that doesn't fucking happen.
And I heard you say that with Brad, and he brought up Montgomery, and I was in the same situation. Like, I had Montgomery. How many times did I want to drop this loser? And I was just like,
But you
no
wouldn't
way.
trade him.
But I wouldn't trade him. No. I mean, I remember getting some decent offers at the end of the day. It's like, wow, I probably should have jumped on that, but there was no way. And it's the same thing for Higbee. Like, how many zeros is someone going to take in the first 3? If 3 of the first 6 weeks are 5-6 fantasy points, like, and a guy like Blake Jarwin or Eric Ebron is sitting on the waiver wire.
There's always waiver wire tight ends who put
Always.
together 2 good weeks, then you pick them up and play them, and they're god awful.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the first 3 tight ends I'm in on, and then it's waiting game for me.
So Ingram is just all about health. Like when he has played, he's averaged over 5 receptions per game in the 17 games over the past 2 years when he's been healthy. So at least you know that if he doesn't have the O next to his name, he's going to be pretty good.
Just play him on DraftKings. Just play him on DK.
Yeah,
Because when he's healthy, you know where he's ranked, and he's always ranked near the top
Yeah,
in terms of fantasy points per game.
it's true. Hayden Hurst, the number 8.
It's another interesting guy.
Yeah, it's pick number 95, so it's not so bad. He is someone that I wouldn't mind drafting, but not at the average draft position. I would want him to fall to me. Like, he's not a reach guy. Even at his price, he's not good enough for me. Only because you're basically just saying, hey, Hayden Hurst is Austin Hooper.
Yeah, and I think that's unfair.
Austin Hooper's pretty good.
Real good. Yeah.
I don't love his situation anymore.
Me neither.
And this situation, like, I find it hysterical that no one wants to draft Matt Ryan, yet Julio's going to be awesome, Ridley's going to be awesome, Hurst is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Like everyone on Atlanta, Gage is a sleeper. But Matt Ryan, he sucks.
Yeah, Gurley's going to catch 50 balls, but Matt Ryan, I'm a big Matt Ryan fan. I think he's a great fantasy quarterback. I think the offensive line is weak. I think the defense, which is a little bit concerning.
I think that the offensive line is getting better.
It is getting better. They've done some things to address it, but even still, like, Matt Ryan drops back 40 times a game. I mean, he's always near the top in passing attempts. The defense still stinks.
Well, here's the thing. You know who can block? Hayden Hurst.
Hayden
You know who
Hurst.
couldn't? Austin Hooper.
Yeah, and it's again, I just think it's unfair. You look at Hooper 2 years ago. So last year he was hurt, but he was still on that pace a couple years ago. What he had set. I mean, I think he had 79 catches. That was fourth among all the tight ends. It was those big three that we talked about earlier with Kittle and Kelce and Ertz, and then it was Hooper who was right there and getting underdrafted. I mean, he was going around 10, but I think it's unfair to just say that Hurst is going to step into this offense and catch 80 balls. And then you see Matt Ryan is one of the fastest tight ends he's ever seen and ever played with. It's like, why are you even saying that? You played with Gonzalez, you played with Hooper, you played with really good tight ends over the course of your career. I think there's slightly just a little bit too much hype with Hurst.
Like, what is really so? Pick number 95 for Hayden Hurst as tight end number 8 off the board, or Austin Hooper now in Cleveland, tight end number 13, pick 130. Like, what's really how many? If we ran the season 100 times, how often does Austin Hooper outscore Hayden Hurst in fantasy points? Like 48 times.
Yeah.
Like, it's a coin flip, isn't it?
It is. Like, if you're asking me who I'd rather have,
It's Hurst.
It's Hurst, but at the price point. Maybe I just take Hooper as tight end 14 off the board. Look at the range there. Pick 130, 168. I know there's a ton of options in Cleveland, but
there's a ton of options.
I'd rather
Atlanta.
60 picks later. Yeah, exactly. There's several. So I don't know. Hurst. I agree with what you said when you first brought him up. You don't need to reach on him, but if he's going to fall to you,
It's
where he's
fine.
around tight end 10, 11, 12. He's a startable tight end 1, borderline.
He doesn't feel like a guy who will fall, though. Like, someone in your draft will be like, oh my, they traded for him.
Yeah.
Austin Hooper, I just read this.
Free him.
I opened up my magazine and saw he got, not only did they trade for him, Austin Hooper's not there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on when you bought the magazine.
Yeah.
If you bought it in March, maybe not.
Yeah.
Remember when that used to be a thing?
Yep.
The same guy who drafts Jason Witten every year is still he still brings his mag with him that he buys in July.
I have
It's
a few
like,
people in my league that has a magazine. I'm just like, where did you get that? What cover is that?
here's the fun part. He's won the league like the second most of anyone. You know what he doesn't do? Overthink anything. He plays his good players
Yeah.
and doesn't play his bad players.
Yeah.
Now, he generally has bad players. Like when he won back-to-back years because he couldn't make the draft and someone drafted for him. It's a keeper league. So for 2 years, he was awesome. And then he got back to drafting, and his team has just been abysmal ever since.
The guy in my league, the same thing. We drafted for him 2 years ago, and he won the damn league. It's like, what the hell? It comes next year, it comes dead last.
How do you approach that? Because this is
tough.
It's a common occurrence. Like we had one guy in our league, but he would miss the draft. Like this guy had special circumstances that we didn't want to fuck him over.
Yeah.
Like he's a good guy. Everyone
Yeah.
likes him.
Yeah.
He pays his money, and he's usually dead money every year.
Yeah,
But he's a
yeah.
good guy.
Yeah.
We have another guy in our league who shows up 45 minutes late to the draft every single year for no other reason that he's like smoking bowls in his car, like outside, like just.
You got to give him a penalty. That guy needs to get a penalty.
When
I
we
don't know
draft
what.
his team, we draft him like. We try to go by ADP.
Yeah.
And as a room, we're like, who is the guy we don't want at this ADP? And like we vote on it. But that also fucks up the rest of the draft too, because sometimes you end up giving him a guy who like the next pick wants. And it's
It
like
sucks.
and he does no research.
There's no win it's tough for everybody. We've done the same thing before. I think a couple years ago when it was Tyreek Hill, we said, all right, well, we'll give him Tyreek Hill. He's the next ADP. I don't know what site it was, Yahoo or something. And then one guy in the room says, fuck, man, are you kidding me? That's my guy. Like, I'm 3 picks later. Like, I wanted Tyreek Hill. You can't give him Tyreek Hill because he's not here in the draft. Like, let's give him some other loser. And it's like there's a big fight. So hopefully you just have everyone come to your draft. But I think the best way is just, unfortunately, it's just, next ADP, best guy available.
And like it's so hard, especially put it this way: when I was doing fantasy football drafts when I was 21, wasn't super tough to get everyone in the same room at the same time.
But now
that I'm 35,
got
I have
kids.
we have one guy. It's funny. The guy who lives in China never misses the draft.
Nice.
He
and if he can make it,
he Skypes in like
right. And if he can make the draft, your one buddy smoking bowls can make the draft.
yeah. Why? Everyone has Zoom now on their phone. They can
Yeah.
fucking figure this out.
Exactly.
But like he does no research. He complains about the league, how he hates fantasy football, and then I kicked him out of the league, and then he like lost his mind, and then like cried and got back in. That didn't show up for the draft.
Sounds like he needs to be booted again.
Yeah, we gave him a partner now who actually
Like a co-manager.
Well, we've done this a few times with like a couple guys in the league that were like, it's been going on for 20 years. Like,
you gotta keep it going.
People have kids now. People are married. People don't have the same sort of dedication. They don't do this for a living like I do.
Right.
And even like I'm like pretty on this league. Like, yeah. Like Cust is like all in on the league. Like he's on top of every trade. Of
course he is.
But we've brought in a couple of the stragglers, like just some of our other friends throughout the years that we made new friends or people that we got like reconnected with, brought them back in as co-managers with other people.
Yeah, I think that's...
And they're a bit more serious, and they like make sure that there's not empty spots on their roster playing like injured people.
And that's one thing that's annoying too, is that guy probably, if he's into week 9...
He's out of it. Yeah.
He's out of it, and he's not starting guys. Like, you don't want to pick up guys, whatever. Don't pick up, but at least put somebody in your starting roster.
And that's the one decent thing about the like having the keeper league is that people try to remain pretty active the entire way until they actually like tank.
That's the answer. You get a co-manager.
Yeah.
You make sure that somebody brings somebody else to the draft.
Hunter Henry, tight end, numero 9. Pick number 98.
I kind of put him in the same range as Evan Engram. There's a guy who has upside. There's a guy who's frustrated some people recently with some injuries, but when he's healthy, he seems pretty productive. It's just, how's this offense going to really run? That's the big question mark.
I think it's a bit like people just want to like slag Tyrod Taylor the entire time, but when you think about like his Buffalo days, not so much the Cleveland stuff because it was just like, oh, let's get Baker in.
Yeah.
But in Buffalo, like Hunter Henry's better than Charles Clay.
Yeah, and Clay had some pretty good games.
Yeah, like
but at the same time, like who was really around there?
But
like
would you rather have Henry or Hurst? I feel like I'd just gamble on Henry.
I would too. I would too because like I said, I've seen it before. I've seen the good games from Hunter Henry. I know when he's healthy. He's like, how many Hunter Henry like games has Hurst put up in his career? None.
It's true.
Really, he's put up none. We're just hoping that he's going to step in and put up similar numbers to Austin Hooper, at least with Hunter Henry. We've seen it before. So I think you're right. Tyrod Taylor is getting a little bit of heat from people in the fantasy community, but I think he's going to start the majority of the games.
So do I, and I think that he'll be a relatively decent fantasy asset. Just
turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. You got 3 or 4 backs. You got Eckler. You got some options in the passing game, and a defense that, if they can stay healthy, still have some players on there who can make plays.
If their defense stays healthy, it's a top 5 defense.
I agree.
Just with the way that they can get they have enough in coverage and they can get to the quarterback. That is the recipe in the NFL.
This may be the year to be on the Chargers after all those years that they let everybody down. Like this is the year to be on them. So again, Henry is in that range. I think it's fair where he's going. He reminds me a lot of Evan Engram. He's got the upside, but there's some injuries there. But if all those guys are going to fall off, if your buddy in your draft's going to reach on Hurst,
you just wait for Henry.
Just wait for Henry.
Henry scores once on every 8 receptions in his career, and he's only 25. That's
pretty damn
good. Like Engram, he just hurt a lot.
Yeah,
and it's always
fractured his knee. It was a random.
It's really freaky. He's like the Mark Pryor of the NFL. Like just weird injuries. Like he's not injury prone. He just gets hurt.
Yeah, it's like Wentz too. Like Wentz had some weird injuries. People call him injury prone, but like, is it concussion injury prone? Like,
it becomes injury prone
if you continue to get them.
Well,
but
you do. Once you have one, it kind of look at Brandon Cooks. It just opens up the floodgates.
It does.
It's easier to get a concussion the second time and third time than it is the first time.
Good point.
Number 10, a guy I like this season.
Yeah.
GRONK.
I'm willing to take him
He's
here.
the champ.
Yeah.
Oh, is he still the champ? Did he lose the WWE title?
I don't have a microphone set up.
You can just yell.
So
you just give me a yes or no.
He had the 24/7 title, I believe, for a bit. I cashed a ticket on it, but
Does he? If he still has the title, will he lose it after scoring a touchdown? Will someone like jump out of the stands like in the?
That's the thing with
he broke the bubble.
That's
Boom.
the thing with the 24/7 title. It can be defended at any time, so it could be like a touchdown celebration. Some wrestler could come on the field. I don't know if the NFL would be on board with that, but that would be kind of hilarious.
Amazing if someone on like an opposing team thought that wrestling was real and then like tried to get GRONK mid-game to become the 24/7 champion. He probably needs to drop the title before this entire thing starts.
Yeah, he should.
Pick 117. Like, what's the downside? Like, if he's going in the 12th or the 11th round and you roll him out there, maybe he's god-awful, but maybe he scores 12 touchdowns.
Right. The upside is tremendous. Let's be honest. The upside is top 5 because of the touchdowns. What you said off the top of this segment, off this show, is that a lot of these guys, after the first 3 or 4 especially, are all touchdown dependent. Is he going to get 8 targets a game? No. Is he going to probably get 6, 7 catches a game? No. He's going to have some games where it's like maybe just
2 for 4.
2 for 40.
No, I was going to say like 2 for 4.
2 for 17, or 2 for 4, like whatever. But he's also going to have games where he wins you weeks because he scores 2 or 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's still going to have that kind of upside. Obviously, he's very familiar with Tom Brady. He's going to be a red zone target. All of that stuff is in play here. Originally, when Gronk signed and he was getting ranked as a top 5 tight end, it was very easy for me to say no thanks. I'm not going to draft him that way. But at this point, you're right. What's the risk? If he gets hurt,
then whatever. If he sucks, whatever.
You're just going to drop him, or you're going to pick somebody else up that can really help you out. Or if you want, you draft another one of these guys that we're going to talk about with your last pick, and you have 2 as some security.
How about this? Let's say he does fall, because I think that he's just going to be almost an exclusive red zone presence.
Yeah.
Like that's where they're going to use him the most. He's the only one right now because of basically no off season. You're having Zoom meetings. When Tom Brady's calling audibles, Gronk knows those audibles.
100%.
He's like the one guy who knows them.
It's a good call.
So he has that familiarity with Tom Brady. There's that trust with Tom Brady. Now, physically, he looks fine.
Yeah.
And if he's actually healthy, I mean, he's been taking CBD pills, like his joints feel good all of a sudden.
The time off is going to help him.
Yeah, that was his thing.
No
like,
question.
He just got hurt. Like, if they can use him in a limited capacity, but the move would be, like, you draft Gronk in, like, the 11th round.
Yeah.
And watch him have, like, a max of 4 targets in each of the first, like, 3 games. But he has, like, 5 touchdowns in the first 3 games. Think about what you could trade Gronk for.
You're right, 100%. Imagine week 1 and 2, and he has 4 touchdowns. You can flip him for whatever you want.
Yeah.
Basically.
You'll find the guy.
You could flip him for a Waller if Waller all of a sudden is pretty stinky in the first couple weeks.
You'll find the guy in your league who's in on Gronk.
Yeah.
But only after he proves himself to like be doing something decent. Now, if he has like the 4 or 5 touchdowns in like 2 or 3 games and he's only getting like 3-4 targets a game, that's not going to sustain itself. You know that. Now, if all of a sudden he's getting like 10. If Gronk this season averages 7 targets a game, he could be the number 1 tight end.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
But he's not going to do that.
Yeah, I can't see it either. But I mean, if there's a really good chance he starts strong, to your point, because he's healthy coming in. He knows he's going to know Brady. The offense is going to be kind of surrounded around. It's not going to be obviously similar. It's going to be more throw down field than what Tom Brady's done over the past couple of years. But again, what do you think? Over under 30 catches?
Over. I love Gronk, so I just want it to happen.
I could have said 50 and you would have.
Yeah, I would have. 50 is a lot for what I expect from you. 30 seems reasonable.
Yeah, I feel like 40 is probably his max. But again, if he gets 7 touchdowns, he's a top 10 tight end.
Yeah. Jared Cook. Worst place Jared Cook. Everyone knows how much I hate Jared Cook. So here's why. He's just the most unreliable player of all time. That's when you see him in worst place in my rankings, and I have to get someone else to rank him, it becomes a hassle week to week. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. However, I can't do it. I've had Jared Cook on my teams. Mm-hmm. He is the worst player to ever have. You will play him when he scores 0 points, and when you don't play him, he scores fucking 50 points.
Yeah.
So here's why. Jared Cook tied with Mike Gesicki and Mark Andrews at tight end last year as the leader in end zone targets with 11. But he still ranked 4th at the position in drop percentage. Like, you'll just see him be wide open. And then he'll make the most athletic play of all time to score a touchdown. You're like, what is going? Like,
I know.
He's matchup proof because in the good matchups, he sucks. In the bad matchups, he's good.
He's really hard to figure out. There's no consistency in his game. And plus, they brought in Emmanuel Sanders.
And they drafted a tight end, too.
Yeah. Who's should be really on your dynasty radar as a guy, next year could be really somebody that we talk about. Yeah, I'm with you. Cook, no chance. All the next 7 guys going after him, I would much rather have the Cook, even if Cook went where Jack Doyle is going.
So Rob Gronkowski picked number 117. That's actually the same as Jared Cook picked number 117 in terms of ADP. Mike Gesicki is next, tight end 12, picked number 119. I like Gesicki, but I mean, I can only be so into all these Dolphins.
And I really like Preston Williams.
And I like Williams. I like Devontae Parker. Like, I think just in a vacuum, I like Sticky Gesicki. He's got those hands, the stickums.
I like that name.
But again, like if pick number 118, that's what, round 10?
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference at this point between Gesicki and, I don't know, like you said, Jack Doyle or even Eric Ebron in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I really like Ebron in Pittsburgh.
And those are 16th round
Yeah.
picks. Like, I don't see what the big difference is.
Yeah, I don't think there's huge. I am in on Gesicki. I think he's super talented. I think you don't take any consideration to his rookie year. He really kind of came on strong in his sophomore year in the second season, and part of that was Fitzpatrick. Is Fitzpatrick going to be the starting quarterback all year? He may be. He could possibly be. I mean, they could potentially just cool it with Tua and let him, sit behind the sidelines. There's a real connection there with Fitzpatrick, and Gesicki runs nice routes. But again, part of it, Preston Williams wasn't around, and Parker was getting top attention.
Albert Wilson's going to be healthy again, too. Like, they have guys.
Yeah, they do have some guys.
And listen, Ryan Fitzpatrick is their quarterback, and he played pretty well last year.
He did.
What usually happens the year after Fitzpatrick plays well? He's god-awful.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So I don't hate him, but he's just a part of this tier of guys. Like, you can kind of pick who you want.
I think next year we'll be talking about him in the 6 to 8 range.
Yeah, and he was number 1 in end zone targets last year, amongst tight ends, like tied with Jared Cook. So, I don't know, and 10 of them came in the final 6 games of the season. So maybe there is a real connection with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but maybe there's no connection with Tua. If Tua ends up coming in, then
it's possible.
You're stuck holding the bag.
Yeah, it'll be like learning curves again. There'll have to be a feel-out process. But I like this range. Like I said, once you get past those 10, you're just kind of really shooting for upside. And I know the Dolphins improved their defense a little bit, but they're probably going to be passing on.
I see upside with Gesicki. And like we talked about Austin Hooper, he's number 13. Number 14 is Dallas Goedert. Pick number 133, as high as 100, as low as 175, so undrafted. Yeah. And like you said, if something ever happens to Ertz and Goddard's healthy, like he's probably a top 5 guy.
It's just you're just taking him as an upside play. You can't really get too
don't
excited about.
him.
Yeah, you can't. There's no way that you can ever feel excited or comfortable starting. Somebody who there's another tight end on that team who's better. It's obvious. If for whatever reason you fade tight ends or you're playing 2 tight end leagues. Sure.
Are there a lot of 2 tight
I
ends?
drafted one on Sirius with Howard
sounds
Bender. It was man. Like I ended up with I think
that's like 2 catcher leagues in baseball.
I know.
If people actually ever played fantasy
goodness.
baseball, which they don't anymore, which couldn't be happier about. Me getting out of fantasy baseball at like the peak of fantasy baseball and just never playing it again.
I was in one of your home leagues. It was kind of fun the first year. I think you had like 20 people.
Yeah, we had 16
people.
Yeah, the auction took 8 hours. It was like it was fun, but I just stopped caring about baseball.
I took part in the Independence Day, the Canadian that I am, the Independence Day Invitational on Sirius XM with Howard Bender, 2 tight ends that you had to start. I took Hooper, who I don't feel great about, but I took him as like tight end 13, and I had to take him in like the 6th round because they were just flying off the board. And it, like I said, in those leagues, an exception, but most people, they don't want to play with 2 tight ends, and I don't blame them.
Goddard isn't a bad bet if it's a league with a big bench.
Yes.
Then you don't
can
need him as your
afford to stash him.
Like I don't think that you should ever draft. It's like having a backup quarterback. Like having a backup tight end seems kind of pointless.
Right, especially if you have a stud at the top.
Yeah, unless you do something like Kelce Kittle and you use 1 at tight end, 1 at flex, and try to fuck over the rest of your league by monopolizing the one spot, and no one's going to be better than you in those
strategy.
Spots. It's dicey because it leaves you real thin everywhere else.
At running back, especially.
Yeah.
Like you can get by a wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, Goddard,
But
I'll say this for the dynasty people out there.
Hold on. Let me think about this now. 12-team league.
Yeah.
You get the first pick, so you get McCaffrey, and let's say they're both there. Could you go Kelce, Kittle? Like I don't know like what the value proposition on. I'd have to ask Pia, who does like the relative average position.
He would say yes.
That's interesting.
He would tell you yes. I believe he thinks that they're both first round talents. Like back of the first, early second, that they probably wouldn't be there. I would do that. If I had CMC, I would do something like that.
That's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, because you really are.
Get at me. If anyone has
over.
actually put this into practice, I'd be really curious to know about it. Just because, like I said, not only do you monopolize the tight end position in terms of like that TE spot on your roster versus everyone else in the league.
Right.
You've like the next best guy that they could have is Mark Andrews, who could bust. Who fuck knows?
Right. One guy's going to have Andrews. Then what? You're looking at a lot of the question marks here. You're looking at somebody who's going to, oh my God, I got to get Higbee now. Or, oh my God, I got to get Hayden Hurst. You know what I mean?
I guess the question would be how much better, let's say you just take Kittle with your second pick. He's your tight end. Like at pick number 3-1, pick number 25 overall. If Kittle was there, like who was that stacked up against? Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of those players.
Yeah, like what backs?
Like like what backs are still available in that range? Josh Jacobs, maybe.
Yeah, maybe Jacobs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is starting to become the helium is not as.
I like him still. I actually like him more now. Like at first, he's almost like Gronk. It's like he was back end of the first round. Now the hot like industry thing is like, you know who you should draft is Damian Williams. He's sick. It's like, yeah, okay. He might be good for like a game or two. Then have fun with that.
Yeah, Edwards-Helaire is eventually going to take over. Yeah, but I mean, you just have to ask yourself who you're looking at for backs if you did that tight end, or CMC or Barkley, and then tight end. Like what would you have? And you could have a Montgomery, you could have a Chris Carson who seems to be falling. I mean, that's okay.
Well, I'm just curious, like Kittle versus whoever's at that draft spot.
Yeah.
Like who do you lose out on by taking Kittle? Like is Kittle as good as blank player that is also available at 25, like Adam Thielen? I'd say yes. Yeah, Kittle is. Yeah. That's
Cooper Kupp.
That's an interesting thing. Like I used to do the flex ranking column. I do too many like media shows now that it's hard to keep up with like the flex because like I have to go change my positional rankings. Then I have to go like amend the flex rankings. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it takes an egregious amount of time.
Yeah.
And on a Sunday morning when I want to update stuff, I don't have an hour and a half to dedicate to updating like piece by piece the flex rankings. The position's super easy. It's either that or I don't do shows on a Sunday morning.
Right.
So I'd rather do the shows.
Of course.
So that's why there's no more flex rankings. If anyone was ever curious. Although the top 200 I have right now is a mix of all of the positions, quarterbacks included, that just take a look at where Kelce and Kittle rank amongst wide receivers. I think that's really important to figure out.
Yeah, and I think for me, they rank right there with like Allen Robinson and Golladay.
And if that's the case, then Kelce and Kittle are better picks solely because that position is just more scarce.
Exactly. There's just so much value as we talked about when we were doing wide receivers.
So Goedert, deep bench, don't trust him to start.
Buy low in Dynasty. Because I wouldn't be shocked if they don't sign Ertz in 2 years.
Noah Fant, running back number 15, pick number 133. I like Fant, even with the addition of Judge Judy.
Yeah,
that might be even better for him.
It may be. I liked him a hell of a lot more when it was just Sutton and Fant. I mean, they got KJ Hamler and Judge Judy and Albert O, who had 17 touchdowns in 2 years in Missouri with Drew Lock. I mean, he's very familiar with him as well. Denver's going to be a speedy team. Like, I don't want to get too far ahead and say they're the baby Chiefs.
Fant's fast, too.
They're all fast, man. You add in Lindsey and Gordon in the backfield. I mean, they're going to play fast. There's a lot of options for Drew Lock. I mean, there's really no excuse for him.
Do you like Fant or number 16 tight end Hockenson?
I like Hockenson. I like Hockenson better because he could, like, we both like Jones, but he could be that solid number 3. You started to see him really take a stride halfway through the year, and then he suffered that injury. He was starting to become a red zone target.
I think we were watching that game together, and it looked like he broke his neck.
Was that Thanksgiving?
I think it was Thanksgiving
against KC that they almost won. No, there was
No.
one game
No,
you and I
we-
watched against KC where they should have won.
That was like week 3.
Well, they should have won that game. Like, Detroit was actually decent offensively. I'm in on him. I like Stafford. I like the offense. I think they're going to have issue running the football as much as they want to go with Swift and carry on.
Here's the big thing with Hockenson versus Fant. It's like an Evan Engram situation and an O.J. Howard situation. One of the problems O.J. Howard encountered was he was getting limited snaps, but he's also a fucking incredible blocker. So it's like, if we ever want to run, we need to have O.J. in the game. Hockenson, incredible blocker. Noah Fant can't block. So they don't even ask him to block. They're like, you go play receiver.
Yeah.
So he's just going to run more routes. So even if the Detroit offense is better, he's still at least man 3 on the totem pole. Matt Patricia's their coach who just wants to run it with like 5 running backs. No one's ever let's draft a running back in the second round. But here's the thing. We're not going to use him. We're going to use this guy we picked up off the street for some reason.
Bo Scarborough.
And not even Bo Scarborough. Who was the other loser we kept using last year? Ty Johnson.
I
He's
saw
probably
somebody
still
spell like $87 fab bucks on him when Carry On went down. And it was like, have you not learned anything, Patricia?
Horrible.
Yeah, he was brutal. So for me, it's not even close, actually. Like, I think from a talent standpoint that it's kind of close. They're both exciting players. But when I look at the perspective on their teams, it's Hockenson for me. And again, it's not even close because, like I said, he could be the 3rd option. There are going to be games with Fant where it's like the 5th or 6th. Like,
see, I don't see it that way necessarily. Like, I don't think that we know what the pecking order is in Denver. At least in Detroit, we know it's Golladay, it's Jones, and then it's question mark. Probably Hockenson. Could be Amendola. It could be maybe they'll sign T.J. Jones again, get him back in the game.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
in Denver, like it's probably like, do we know who the one is between Sutton and Judy? We assume it's Sutton. It could be Judy.
You're right.
And then there could just be a spot carved out for Noah Fant. Like, hey, it's like Evan Engram is with the Giants receivers. Like the Giants, like Sterling Shepard's a fine player. Slayton's a fine player. Tate's a fine player.
Yeah.
But there's always 7 targets a game for Evan Engram.
Yeah. Yeah. And we bring up a good point. But again, like they brought in another tight end like that Alberto. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that guy's last name. No
Maybe
chance.
he blocks. I have no idea if he's a good blocker or not.
Super quick, super fast.
He's got quicks.
He's not.
Here's an interesting one. Number 17, Jonnu.
Yeah. I mean, now we're getting into the like how many tight ends can you say in this range who they're the number 2 option in the passing game?
It's just how often are they going to pass?
Yeah, not often. Offense is not going to change too much. They're not going to sneak up on anybody too often this year with the play action pass and AJ Brown. But I mean, maybe we'll see more stack boxes. Maybe that will be the game plan for teams. Like, listen, let's stack the box and let's double team AJ Brown.
Yeah, and Jonnu's a freak athlete, man. He's so
Very
fast.
good after
Except
the catch.
Titans are real sneaky like the Raiders are. They'll let Jonnu get there, and then they'll throw to like Ferkster. It's like, oh, sweet. Oh, they'll bring in a defensive tackle and throw to him. Like they do weird stuff. Yeah. And like, are we convinced that this offense is going to be as efficient with Ryan Tannehill as it was last year? Like that's tough.
Yeah.
Like they were so good.
Man, Tannehill set records. Like not records, but like yards per attempt. I think the highest since Kurt Warner back in like 2000.
And if things go optimally for them, they're just going to run the ball 75 times a game.
As they should.
But I think that's at pick 141.
Yeah.
Like, even versus Goedert, Fant, and Hockenson, Jonnu might be the better play. Because if he is the number 2, like, there's really no, like, Corey Davis, give your head a shake.
I know. Like, we can't make excuses for Corey Davis anymore. We just can't. He had every
He's
opportunity.
Free, by the way, in drafts.
Yeah, he's not even getting drafted.
Rapid fire. Jack Doyle, pick 155. They bring in Trey Burton, as you brought up.
Frank Reich's boy.
Back with Frank Reich.
Philly special. I think they're going to try to use him. It's just, how much can he offer, right? I mean, I guess Chicago is just a shit show, right? I mean, Matt Nagy
he's one
was
of 10 tight ends.
There was so many tight ends there. He suffered the injury. He had a couple okay moments in his first year, but listen, Frank Reich he's been known to utilize all these tight ends. He did in Philadelphia. Burton had a couple decent games there with Zach Ertz on the field.
Like, do you want Doyle?
I want Doyle.
Okay.
I want Doyle over Fant, Goedert, Hooper probably.
And this is the last round pick if you wanted to do it.
Yeah, he's
right.
free. I like
Jarwin?
Ebron too.
Jarwin out.
There's a lot of people that are really in on Jarwin. I think he's fine. There's just so many options.
That's
there.
the whole thing.
Yeah, like what can we really expect from him? Free catches a
before
game.
Lamb went to Dallas, I got it. But now there's just too many people.
Yeah, there's way too many guys. There's 3 really good wide receivers, and they still have Zeke to run the football. Plus, Dak calls his own number in red zone too.
We back on Herndon?
Yeah. I'm back on Herndon.
Herndon also free. That's pick number 170. Eric Ebron is 21. That's pick 172.
I'm really on Ebron.
Yeah, you wait till he alligator arms the ball in the end zone. You're like, oh man, like there's no one around you.
I know that.
What are you doing?
That's gonna happen, but. Everyone got excited about Vance McDonald last year because he was going to be given an opportunity, and Big Ben, all those years that he even threw the ball to Heath Miller. Like Heath Miller was never a tight end 1, but he was actually a sneaky guy that
like
in
Witten.
deeper leagues that you could play, even knowing with Antonio Brown was there and other guys that they had on the team back in the day.
Whether
Emmanuel
it's Wallace,
Sanders
whether it's
or
Juju.
Wallace, Juju. So I think, maybe third option on the team.
Could be the red zone guy.
Could be the red zone guy. Ben likes to call his own number. Likes to throw the football in the red zone. Likes to throw the football a lot, Ben.
Yeah, he does. We'll see. We'll see if he's up to the task this year.
Yeah.
Any other tight ends? Like the problem with Herndon is I believe they re-signed Ryan Griffin, who was good.
Who was really good, and that is the problem. That's probably why Herndon will get undrafted in your normal league, but he's right there in terms of like a waiver wire guy, somebody you need to have on your radar in a deeper format. A tight end 2, again, you start those guys, sure. But yeah, he was really good. But Herndon I just look at him and I just try not to think about what happened last year, right? Wasn't he suspended and then he had the injury? He never got on the field. He was pretty good towards the end of 2018.
He really was. Like there was such optimism for him last year. Like he was the guy that people stashed after the suspension. And he was god awful.
I stashed him
afterwards. Like and then he got hurt. And it was like, oh yeah, he's not playing again this week. What do you mean he's not playing again this week? The only other guy I would think about is like Darren Fells. Yeah. Just because when you have Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb as your receiving core, like max one of those guys is going to play every week.
I on FTN I wrote up just some quarterbacks, and I know we'll get to that in another show. And what I was saying is like, man, there may be times where Fells is the only option. Cobb and Fells, the only option for Watson.
I don't know if people know this or not, but Deshaun Watson, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Real good.
Pretty
good. Yeah, they're coming back with another season occurring.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Excited.
So, yeah.
Chris
It's an option
Meaney.
for you.
At Chris Meaney on Twitter. FTNFantasy.com, FTNBets.com, FTNDaily.com. Use promo code Mayo. Get yourself an extra discount up there.
Do it up. Lots of exciting things.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Hit the description of the video and or podcast or both. I mean, why not watch both? I mean, you can really use the downloads. I'm not going to lie to you on this one. The draft kit is in there. You can get the link to my top 200 rankings at all positions, plus all the shows. Like, it's all free content, so hit the like button. Tell me your tight end bust in the comment section. Rate and review the Pat Mayo Experience 5 stars, please. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!